Welcome back to Spring into Math 6. I'm Mr. Stein, and today we're going to talk about prime and composite numbers. Okay, so prime and composite numbers are something we've seen before. I know a lot of you guys were with me in Spring into Math 5, and we did a lesson on this very same topic, so we're going to kind of dive back into it and kind of go through it a little bit slower, but make sure we really get the idea. Okay, so what are prime and composite numbers? So let's go through an explanation. We'll kind of break it down step by step. All right, so the first step is, first we got to define what prime numbers are and what composite numbers are. So a prime numbers are numbers that can only be divided by 1 and itself. Okay, so let's look at a couple examples of that, and then we'll talk about that a little more. Okay, so an example. The thing is that 0 and 1, even though they kind of seem like they would be prime, are not prime numbers. 2 is the only even prime number, and here's why. All the other even numbers are at least divisible by 1 and 2, because 2 would go into every even number, and of course it would go also into the number 2, but that would be the only other number besides 1. So 2 is the only even prime number. So if you see an even number aside from 2, you know right away it's not going to be prime. And so then let's break down a couple other numbers. So the numbers 2, 3, 5, and 7 are primes because they're only divisible by 1 in itself. Because think about the number 3, for instance. Only 1 times 3 is going to give you 3. You know, nothing else goes into it. Or if we get to like 7, for instance, which is larger. 1 times 7, 2 does not go into 7 evenly. 3 doesn't, 4 doesn't. And once you get to, you know, really once you're at 4, if you were to divide it, you're going to be, the answer is going to be smaller than, you know, than the other number. So it's not going to work. So really when you're thinking about prime numbers, it's only 1 and the other number, 1 and itself. Okay, so then the other type of number is composite number. So composite numbers are numbers that have more than 2 factors. So examples of composite numbers really range widely. So if we're just going on the small side, the number 4 is a composite number because 1 times 4 is 4 and 2 times 2. So the factors of 4 are 1, 2, and 4, and so since there's more than 2 factors, it's composite. So another example would be 6. 1 times 6 is 6, 2 times 3 is 6. 8 would be another example. 1 times 8, 2 times 4. 9 would be another example. 1 times 9 and 3 times 3. Now, a common mistake people make is that they think that just because a number is odd, it might be prime. But 9 is odd and it's composite. Most of the numbers are going to be composite. You know, 21, another odd number. Well, 1 times 21 and 3 times 7. So just because a number is odd doesn't mean it's going to be prime. All right, let's try a few ourselves, and then I'll let you guys kind of work on your own. Okay, so we're going to tell whether each number is either prime or composite. So let's try the first one, number 1. All right, let's look at the number 13. I want you to take a moment, think about it, and then I'll explain it. Okay, so the number 13. The number 13 is going to be a prime number because only 1 times 13 is 13. Nothing else goes into it. 2 times, you know, 2 does not divide into 13 equally. There's no number times 2 that's going to give you 13. Same with 3 or 4 or any other number except 1 and 13 for that matter. All right, let's try number 2. Let's look at the number 10. Okay, so think about the number 10 and think about if it's prime or composite. So really you're thinking about, is there more than 2 factors that can go into 10? Okay, so the number 10. Hopefully you guys realize that the number 10 is going to be a composite number because 1 times 10 is 10 and 2 times 5 is 10. Let's try 48. Now hopefully you're remembering 48 from when we talked about factors of numbers in our last lesson, and you know that 48 has multiple factors. 1 times 48, 2 times 24, and so on. So there's multiple factors. And you don't need to list them all if you're just determining if it's prime or composite, because once it has more than 2, you know that it's going to be a composite number. All right, and lastly, let's look at number 4, the number 19. So think about 19 and think about, is there more than 2 factors? Okay, so hopefully you realize that there are not more than 2 factors. Only 1 times 19 is going to give you 19, so the factors of 19 are 1 and 19, making it a prime number. All right, so when you're working through the different various levels through this course, take your time. I know you're going to do great.